Yep, there he is. Look at that. It's a good one too, man. It's so funny, we fish in here and there's water flowing in, and we saw bait blowing up in here earlier, or fish blowing up on bait. And I threw my soft plastic, my super fluke in there 2 or 3 times, and he just didn't react to it. It's a pretty nice one too. And oh, he came off. We got the fun out of him. But I told Alex, I said, sometimes around rocks like this, they react to a crankbait better. First cast, man, he just jumped on it. I don't know why he came off, but that was awful fun. Let's catch one more. You can kind of see what, there was a fish, what we've got going here. We're fishing kind of a neighborhood lake, and that's kind of what we're going to be doing today. And there's an upper one and a lower one, and this is the spillway of the upper one flowing into the lower one. So what I'm throwing is it's a little square bill crankbait. It's a Bandit 100, and that's their version of the square bill. And I'm probably going to alternate back and forth between this, and this is a color called root beer. It really works for shad or brim color. But when I see fish like that, I just saw one blow up, I'm going to probably throw the fluke in there and run it on top and try to get a reaction strike, because they're in here. I guess this water flow is causing bait to move up in here, and they're just coming in and out of here feeding. There he is. Good fish too. Man, he thumped it hard. Oh, look at him, man. That's a pretty fish. The first one that came off was probably 2.5 pounds. This one's pretty good bit better than that. And I'm trying to kind of keep us off of this rock so we don't spook any of them. But man, they are munching on this little crankbait. They're not living in there, I don't think. I just think they're chasing bait first thing. Man, what a healthy looking fish. Clearly a pre-spawner. Man, look how fat that fish is. Cool part about this too is when you're not seeing them blow up, you just never know when they're gonna hit, because it's kind of shallow all back here. And there's rocks all back here, and I think rock is also partly the key, because the rock is what's holding the little bait. Oh shoot, they're weighing, look at that. And I'm tangled. I got my tongue wrapped around my eye teeth. I can't see what I'm doing. Here we go, we're gonna catch one. You ready? Here he comes. Here he comes. Come on, fish. Oh, no. Golly. It's amazing the amount of bait up in this one little place. We've never fished here before. We're at a neighborhood lake, first time we've ever been here, and we pulled in on the road between them and saw these fish blowing up, so we came here first. There he is. Oh, I just pulled it away from him. Did you see that? Yeah, that was a nice one too. They're way, way up in there, about as far as you can get it. There he is. Oh, he missed it. He just keeps missing it. Yep. I got it. Well, my drag went out. Let's see if he stays on. Boy, they're all really pretty fish. Told Alex I couldn't get the crankbait as far in there as I could get this little fluke. And this fish blew up on it twice and missed it. I'm gonna come this way with it. Golly, it's a pretty fish. And every one of them, I mean, you'd think it'd be little bitty ones up that shallow, but they're all 3 and 4 pounders. This one may be bigger than that. Golly, what some nice fish, man. And I guess they're so heavy because they're just in there gorging on there. They're being opportunistic like we are, and they're just gorging on these shad. I was fortunate to catch him. That's a 3.5 pounder and a 2 pounder body. And when your fish look like that, your lake is in good shape. That's in there. There he is, right there. It's another big one. Oh, this one's bigger than that one. This is ridiculous. You ever have days where things seem to go right? So far, this is it. These are really nice fish. Back in just no kind of depth chasing shad. And they're just munching whatever we throw in there. This happens to be the little crankbait again. Let's see what we can do. This may be, they look bigger and then all of a sudden they're all the same size. But look at that fish's tail. That fish right there has been either spawning or about to spawn. We're gonna get her off and try to get back in there again. Look at that, golly. Thank you, Lord. I gotta get us off though, drifted in on them. All right, this is gonna be a fish, ready? Oh, threw him wrong. Threw him wrong, but I got one. He's the same size, Alex, golly. I tell you, I'd really rather be at the office answering the phone or, man, these fish are really pulling good too. And I think he might have choked it like he wanted it. They're like twins up there, this whole family. When I was growing up, my dad called that the bus stop. We're at the bus stop. But that would be half-pound crappie. This is 3-pound largemouth. Oh, he got in my worm there. Get out of my white worm. That's what happens when you don't keep your boat organized. When you got so much going on and it's crazy. Come on, fish. Look at that. Now, when they eat it like that, that means you're throwing the right thing. And every one of them are that size, 2 3/4 to 4 pounds, and they're just in there munching. That time that fish was a little bit further out, but he was right in that flowing water. God, he choked it too. We hadn't been seeing them blow up for a couple minutes, but we know they're in there. And Alice asked me the question. He said that, do you give it a minute to take a break? Until you quit catching them for a little bit, probably wouldn't. If we go 10 or 15 minutes and not get a bite, we might leave and give it a rest and let it come back. But man, these are really nice fish. And when they're eating it like that, you are using the right bait. Come here, bro. He looks like a twin to that other one that ate it like that. Look at him. I mean, that's Bandit 100 special right there, way down in the mouth. Most times though, if you be real careful with them like this, you can get them out if you got a good pair of pliers. See, then it just comes out, and he's not even, well, he's bleeding a little bit, but he's gonna be fine. Yes, sir. So we're in a real unique situation here where we're fishing 2 neighborhood lakes, somewhere in the area of 100 to 200 acres, we're not real sure. But we're in the lower lake where the upper lake flows into this one, and there's 3 or 4 pipes, a lot of flowing water. And we noticed when we drove in these fish blowing up on this bait. And we pulled in here and threw a couple of things, but figured out that the key to triggering strikes was a little square bill crankbait. It's a Bandit 100. We're throwing a root beer color. And the 100 is the square bill. It runs about 2 to 4 feet depending on your line size. But the wobble of it, I think, is what's causing these fish to react. So we're gonna throw in there one more time and See if we can get us another one. The thing that's amazing about this particular deal is the size of these fish. Most of the time, it's 10 inchers doing this. These are 2.5 to 4 pounders, really nice fish. Man, he crunched it too. This may be a really big one, Alex. Or either he's just really pulling hard. Yeah, he really crunched it. I guess when they're up there feeding that hard, they're trying to kill it. And he annihilated it. He's about the same as the other ones. Oh, I think I foul hooked him. I think that's why he's pulling so hard this time. But I'm telling you, sometimes when you see fish like doing this, you think top water, and top water probably would work, but a lot of times you've already missed them when you see them with a top water, and something that runs just under the surface can be good, can be better than a top water. I'm in the trolling motor. I'm gonna come right here. I'll bring him back around. He's kind of foul hooked on me, but golly, he's the same size. That's why he pulled so hard, because I had him in the side. I guess he just swiped at it, but that's a really heavy fish. My goodness, look at him. So we're throwing what we call a square bill crankbait, a shallow run, and it's called square bill literally because the bill is square. And really it's just a chunk and wind kind of there's a fish presentation, unless they're up there 6 inches from the bank, then they hit it as soon as it hits the water. It's just I can't tell you how unique this is. You need to be looking for stuff like this in lakes and ponds, something unique. He just spit out a white worm. This water flow, there's nothing else on this whole lake like this place right here. And it's just like a magnet to these fish. And what it's doing is it's washing in bait, or it's making the bait stay, active. And they're just in here eating it. I mean, they are eating it. That fish couldn't have been 3 inches off the pipe up there. And as soon as I pulled it up, he hit it. And he's not as big a fish, but he's just as healthy, just as fat. So we're gonna let him get a lot bigger. It's a 2.5 pounder. They're all really nice fish. Get big, buddy. But what I was saying about the square bill is it deflects off of stuff really good. That's the beauty of it. And I think that's one of the reasons we're getting bit so good here. It's deflecting off these rocks, and it's looking like a piece of bait. And so I think that's why they like it better than the more shad looking baits like the fluke or the rattle trap. They're liking this bait better because of the way it's deflecting off of stuff and the way it's swimming. So what we've been doing is catching a reaction strike. These fish in here chasing. I hadn't seen them chase for a little while, but before giving up on this spot, I'm gonna see if there's a little hole back in there where they're sitting. I'm gonna throw a bottom bumping bait, this little Zoom speed crawl in there, and see if maybe we can pick 1 or 2 more up before the sun gets too high and they quit doing this. Key for places like this will be right where the current comes in. So that's where I'm gonna drop my little bait. Just try to drop it right where it comes in. See if there's one sitting there. They really seem to want to react, but they got to be somewhere like right there. Look at that. He was right on the end. He's a little smaller than those other ones, but he's still a fat one. That was pretty cool. He was right on the edge of where that water came out, sitting there waiting to run up in there and eat those shad. We even got the geese active this morning. But he's still, I don't know if y'all see him squirting out on the bottom, but that right there means they're getting ready to have babies. But look how he ate it. And I mean, I hit him as soon as I felt him. Let's go see if there's another one in there like that. Zoom speed crawl, one of our favorites. I'm just Texas rigging it. This is a green pumpkin magic color, 1/8 ounce weight, 2/0 Gamakatsu extra wide gap hook, and I'm dyeing the claws chartreuse with Spike It garlic dipping glue. Kind of let this little spot rest a few minutes after we fished it really good with the crankbait, and then the worm. Probably gave it 10 or 15 minutes. And I threw back in there, and man, it bumped a rock. And that's one thing with these square bills you want to do. Try things different. Like I'd been just throwing it and reeling it, and I hadn't gotten a bite in a while doing that. So that time it hit a rock and I stopped it. Man, as soon as I stopped it, this fish just annihilated it. So it seems like it was that stop that might have triggered the strike. I don't know that for sure, but it was definitely something different that I did. But man, it's a nice one. They're all nice up in there. Really nice fish. Be real careful trying to grab one like that, because if they flop, those hooks are really sharp. They can get right in you. He's not hooked too bad right there. There we go. Oh, I got my pliers close. Always good to have them handy, because you never know. And that one was actually down in the meat, so that's a good 2.5, 2.25 pounder. We're gonna let that one go and get bigger. Thank you, Lord. So what we're gonna do probably is throw up there a few more times, and then we're gonna just start easing down some of these banks. These fish ought to be shallow. We know some of them are spawning already, may have already spawned. Probably gonna stay with the crankbait for a while until we feel like they're not hitting it anymore. Man, we had a great day fishing today. One of the best mornings I've had in a really, really long time. It's cool to pull into a place and see fish rolling on bait and be able to throw in there and catch them. And I was just really thankful for the opportunity that we had to be on this particular lake, to be fishing the way that we were fishing. It was just an awesome morning. And as Alex and I were leaving that day, I began to think about really how thankful I am for what we actually get to do. We do a ministry where we get to share Christ with people through fishing in the outdoors. I get to fish all over the place. I get to be with good friends doing those things, and we get to share the gospel through that. I'm just really thankful for that. And then I began to think about the things that I'm thankful for. I'm thankful for my wife. She's just awesome. Thankful for my kids, for the friends that we have, for the church family that we're a part of. And then when I got home from that trip that day, I kind of walked into real life, and some things happened. We had some things with the car. We had some things happen that just kind of get your mind on other things, and you become sort of into the world, and it really drags you down. And I began to find myself really worried about things, really stressing out about things. And then the very next day, I read a devotion that talked about being thankful. And when you're thankful, it's very difficult to be worried and stressed over things of this world. And then I realized, you know what? That's actually God's will for our life. In 1 Thessalonians, I want to read y'all a section, just a really short scripture today. 1 Thessalonians chapter 5, verses 16 through 18 says this: "Rejoice always, pray continually, give thanks in all circumstances, for this is God's will for you in Christ Jesus." So what God really wants you to do is be thankful all the time. And I think God does that for us just so that it keeps our mind focused on Him and not on the things of this world. And man, when you're thankful all the time, it's really hard to be worried about things and be stressed out about things. And maybe it's hard for you to be thankful. You get so worried and you can't seem to pull yourself out of that funk of being worried or stressed out about things. Well, maybe it's because you've never said yes to Jesus Christ for the first time. Maybe you need to give your heart and life to Him for the first time so that you can have that thankful perspective. Well, the way you do that is simply this: you ask Him to forgive you of your sins, come and live in your heart, and be Lord of your life. Just want to encourage you today to be thankful, and man, that'll take the worries and the stress of this life away. Thanks so much for listening.
You know, when I look at the tournaments I've won, probably 4 or 5 of the boats that I've won have been on a tube, but I had completely gotten away from flipping a tube because nobody made one soft enough.
Big Bite has come with this new tour series of baits. The thing that's probably the most unique is when you look at that bait, the salt just rolls out of it. And to me, that is the reason a fish bites a tube and hangs onto it. This isn't one of those let's go out and catch some smallmouth tube. This is a let's get it done tube.
Hey guys, what we do at Go Fish Ministries is share the gospel and encourage believers in their walk with Christ. We do this through a variety of events such as wild game dinners, kids camps, men's events, music events, or even if you or someone you know just needs a day on the water. Go Fish Ministries wants to point you toward Jesus and help you know Him better. Contact us through our website. We'd love to serve you any way we can. God bless you and go fish. Seemed like when they got off that early bite, we thought we'd go looking for them, and we're not seeing really any on the bed, but we are seeing a few fish move. And what happened here, Alex caught one, and I saw a stump out in about 3 or 4 foot of water. I saw a fish swimming around it. Anytime you see something like that, if you can come back to it, that fish may be spawning out here in a little deeper water on that stump. Or he may have just been hanging around on it, trying to get things to eat, but I bet that's the fish I saw. He looked way bigger than that a minute ago. But he got hooked just right. And you see that tail, I guarantee you that fish is spawning on that stump right there. And Alex may have caught, in fact, that fish may have already spawned and is guarding some fry down there. We're gonna let him go back and do it. Thank you, Lord. It's gotten a little slow for us, and on a day like today, like we've had where that was early was the key, we're trying to figure out another way to catch them and kind of looking for spawning fish, even though we may not be seeing them on the bed, is what we're doing. What's going on is it just got real tough real quick. So basically what we're doing is it's the time of year where fish ought to be all over the banks. But now that the sun has gotten up high, even in shade, we don't think they're chasing. So Alex and I both just caught one on a speed crawl, just kind of blind casting slow to the bank. And we did have one on a bed. We may go try him a little later. He's not quite locked on. But boy, these fish in this lake, even the smaller ones, are beautiful and fat. I mean, that's a 1.5 pound, 2 pounder that's in the body of a 3/4 of a pounder just because they're so wide and so fat. It's so shallow, he kicked up mud. And what I'm doing basically is just fishing down the bank. And this time of year you can do that. And I'm throwing my favorite, a speed crawl, and that's a nice one. It was just up there, I mean, in nothing, because when he tried to jump, he couldn't jump because it was so shallow. And he really got it. All of them are really eating it good, which means when that happens, you know you're using the right thing. Well, Alex and I were talking about maybe trying something a little different to see if we could get under some of these cover places like a Cinco or something, but that's another nice one. So what we're doing, we've got off the rocks, got off the moving stuff, and it just appears that fishing slow and deliberate, just in little shady areas, is where these fish are. Alex has had a couple, and I just caught this one. I think they're getting ready to bed, but I don't think they're quite on them yet. But these fish pull good. And what we've kind of done, and you'll hear me tell you this, on a day where you can't figure something out, go with something you got an awful lot of confidence in. For me, and that's this speed crawl. I feel like anywhere in the country I can catch them on that little bait. Man, that's a really nice fish, really healthy. And the speed crawl went up the line just like it's supposed to. And see the tail, her tail's torn just a little bit, but not a whole lot. So she may have just started fanning, or he, whichever the case might be, but she's thick like a female. So we're gonna let her get big. See you, girl. So we're up here fishing shade, and we got around a little, this tree was actually a little further off the bank. And that fish came off the last limb of the branch and got my little speed crawl. He's not liking that hook in his head very much. I guess I would either. Man, it's so fun fishing places like this, and clearly the people that manage it do a good job, because the fish are all really healthy, really fat, thick across the belly and the back, and they eat really good. So we're gonna let him get bigger and bigger. Probably a little one, but he was right on the edge of the shade. He was near it, but he was pecking it, which probably means he was on a bed. When fish are bedding, don't let them fool you. Sometimes you know, oh, that's just a brim, but they'll peck it just like a brim sometime when they're on the bed, trying to get it off the bed. But he still ate it good. So we're kind of keeping on going. We're going back to a couple fish we saw on the bed earlier. I was just working down the bank, fishing the shade again, and one of us had gotten a bite right there earlier. I can't remember if it was me or Alex, and I threw up in the same spot, and that fish hit. That's a strong fish right there. Boy, they're all hard pullers and fat. We just had a great day, awesome day fishing. And when they eat this speed crawl, man, they really eat it. You can see how it's way down in his mouth. This nice 2.25 pounder. Boy, we had an awesome day fishing today. One of the neatest mornings I've had in a long time. We saw these fish blowing up on bait, and we caught them. Threw a fluke in that first, they didn't hit it, and so we started throwing this little Bandit 100 root beer crankbait, and it worked awesome. But when the sun got up high, those fish kind of went away, and we had to kind of work the banks, figure out what those fish were doing. And most of the rest of our fish that we caught were just on this little plastic bait called a speed crawl. It's a crawfish imitation bait. Hey, we appreciate you guys being with us so much this week. Join us next time.